This Equipment World video is brought to you by Chevron Delo 600 ADF Ultra Low Ash Diesel Engine Oil. It's time to kick some ash. Hey everyone, welcome back to Equipment World. You're watching The Dirt. I'm your host Brian, and today I want to talk about the big, bad, scary thing that so many people in the dirt world shy away from. I want to talk about technology. Today we're talking with OE Construction out of Colorado, and they have really embraced technology to help grow their business and really flourish. They've become much more efficient by using various aspects of technology, and I want to get in that today. So today we have Terry and Danny joining us from OE Construction. But before we get into that, I want to take a second to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Chevron Lubricants. Protecting your diesel engine and its exhaust aftertreatment system has traditionally been seen as an either-or proposition when it comes to choosing the engine oil that's going to protect your system. And that's exactly why Chevron spent more than a decade of R&D work developing a no-compromise formulation. Now, I don't have to tell you why a clogged DPF is bad news, but here's the real kick in the pants. 90% of that ash clogging up your DPF and then upping your fuel and maintenance costs, it comes from your engine oil. You might be thinking, why don't they make an engine oil with less ash in it then? You'll be happy to learn that Chevron agrees with you. They've developed a new ultra-low ash diesel engine oil that is specifically designed to combat DPF ash clogging. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology cuts sulfate ash by 60%, radically reducing the rate of DPF clogging and extending the DPF service life by 2.5 times. Before you had to choose between protecting your engine or your aftertreatment system. Now you don't. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology. It's time to kick some ash. Well, Terry and Danny, thank you so much for taking time to be on The Dirt today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're excited. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first question for you guys is, what area of your business has been impacted the most with the introduction of technology?
There's so many things we could say to that. On the field side, I feel like we get more accurate numbers using some of the GPS. We get more accurate data coming into our office using our assigner app for timesheets and daily project logs. I don't know. I'm a tech guy, so I really like every aspect of it, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I would tell you it's been we didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, let's go spend a lot of money and let's put all this tech in place. It's been a progression, I think, for the last probably 16 years. The field components are a really big deal these days. So we're using 3D modeling, right? So we're obviously doing takeoffs for moving dirt, and those can be, quote, 3D, but we're taking that information and combining it with drones. So we have drones out mapping sites, and then that data comes in. There's another modeling component with that, and then we shoot out the instructions for all the equipment on the job site. So it's pretty cool stuff. The machine control, we've increased accuracy. We absolutely save on fuel. And from a safety component too, it's been a big deal. And then on the other side that Danny mentioned, we use a platform for forms and data recording, if you will, in the field. And it's just revolutionized everything. We are saving an incredible amount of time, everything from payroll timesheets to daily reporting, safety reporting. There's just probably 13 or 14 different areas we use that tech for. And we've tried to develop this so that it's kind of transparent and not overburden the field, right? Because that's where you can get into trouble if you asking these guys to do, what are they doing all day? Filling out forms. No, we've tried to integrate it so it works well.
So it occurs to me, we kind of had our pre-interview chat, and so I'm familiar with what you guys are doing technologically. But for the audience, would you mind, not going deep dive into the weeds, but what are some of the technological things that you guys have implemented, both in the office and in the field?
So as Terry mentioned, in the field, we do a lot of GPS control on our machines, as well as rovers. So our equipment basically knows what exactly we're doing and where we're at on a project. Those machines will dig to grade for us. I can also verify with the rover that everything is correct. It eliminates the need for an extra labor on site. And it also increases our production tremendously because the machine is doing the work and it eliminates the chance for operator error.
Right. So that's called an auto dig component, right? So you've got to outfit your fleet with, GPS receivers. You've got to have some onboard technology. And these days, a lot of the new equipment that's been coming out for the last 2-3 years, they're already enabled with that, right? But you can go back and retrofit older equipment. So like Danny said, I mean, from a safety component too, you don't have an extra guy on the ground, right? And so maybe you don't have a grade checker anymore. Maybe you're doing that electronically. It's not difficult to implement. It's really not. It sounds like this mystery science, right? Nobody knows. How do you guys do that? It really, one step at a time. We worked with, in our case, Caterpillar and our cat dealer and others in the industry, and we started out with enabling a few machines, proved the model, right? And then we said, hey, because back in the day, we weren't using drones to map the site, right? We were doing this. You'd get out there on a 4-wheeler and you'd drive.
Do your manual survey and yes.
Yeah. And so what used to take on a medium-sized site, like let's just say maybe 10 acres, for example, or it's even smaller, perhaps. It could have taken them a day or two in the field to go drive it or walk it and verify. When you introduce a drone and the ability to capture the same information from above, I mean, it's maybe taking an hour. Can you imagine an hour versus 2 days?
Oh, so, absolutely.
That's to just capture it. And then, of course, you've got somebody on the other side that's got to take and create the model. But there are training programs out there. I mean, we took a mechanic, if you can believe it, that had a really great computer background, or, he loved computers. And he's now our tech. And by training him one step at a time, he kind of took that over. So he flies the drones, he captures the data, puts it into a model, works with the estimating people in the office, and they can also verify site conditions. So for a lot of your listeners, that's a big deal. You show up on a site, and what if it's off? Because it's happened many times. And so it helps identify what the problems are, and then we can talk to our customer and say, hey, you guys realize we got a problem here. So I don't think it's not rocket science. No. It's just understanding both the equipment and the software is the biggest challenge initially. You can spend as much money as you want. I mean, the tech has gone even further than that. Some of the really big contractors are using other products. There's one called Propeller that works in conjunction with Trimble equipment, and they're spending a lot of money. And that sucker will actually track everything you're doing in real time. And then it shoots it out to everybody on the job site. So, we like to dream big, but that's you're right. So kind of take it one step at a time. And then the forms that we developed with a software partner, we pay so much a month, and we can have so many field folks and office folks on the system. So Danny, that's really saved you guys time, I think, right?
It saves us a lot of time. The guys can do a timesheet every day. It takes them 5 minutes tops. Daily project logs, so if the foremen are tracking what we do on a project in a day, and also our safety meetings and pre-task planning, or JHAs. All of this paperwork takes maybe 15 minutes out of your day, as opposed to writing it all on paper, which could take half an hour.
Right. And then remember, we had to have somebody gathering up all the papers, right? Bringing them back to the office, sifting through everything. And then how do you know if you're missing stuff, right?
Deciphering my handwriting.
Exactly. Yep. So, and the big thing for us in implementing that was to show the folks in the field the benefit for them. Like Danny mentioned, we're going to save you time. You can be more organized, and we can give you more relevant and immediate feedback, right? So it's created this, back and forth. So we're more collaborative, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So we'll kind of go down one road here talking about your kind of office side of the business. And then I want to circle back to your kind of in the field with the drones and the 3D GPS. So for your back office, you guys do a lot of metric tracking, which has really been pretty impactful on your business when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to, equipment maintenance and like you said, tracking hours and everything. For a company that might be looking to get into a software solution like this, what kind of infrastructure needs to already be in place for you to be able to track those metrics and utilize them?
That's a great question. So you want me to jump in,
Danny,
and talk a little bit? But Danny's well qualified. We'll get out over the questions.
Danny's the dirt guy.
Exactly, right?
I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm the numbers gal, right?
Yep.
I do all the data. So some of the areas, so let me just give a quick example. So early on, this was years ago, we were using a product called VisionLink, which some of your listeners might be using. And it isn't just for CAT equipment, even though it's more of a CAT-based software, right? And VisionLink was utilized to track the equipment, right? And also the hours, where it is. And it can also be used to lower your insurance costs. So we told you earlier we had a theft last night. We were able to use the link to actually live track the machine as it left the job site. And
it occurs to me, you had less than a 12-hour recovery time on that piece of equipment.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, we were able to get the authorities involved and other people at OE. And I almost felt like we were in wasn't there a movie about that, a chase movie, right? And you're following the dot on the screen. But so we had some,
James Dirt Bond.
Exactly. That's and our general superintendent's getting a big award for that, right? Some people might have slept through the alert, but no, it's Johnny on the spot. But at the end of the day, that was one piece of the tech. And so that for us was a really big deal because we can feed information like with this tool, the VisionLink I mentioned, and getting information from the machine, services, right? So if we're doing 250, 500, 1,000 hour services, our maintenance department is getting that data. So that's kind of cool, right? So if you want to talk about analyzing data, all the maintenance people have access to this and we're able to track it and schedule and continue on the maintenance. We can use it for security, just a variety of different things, both in the office and the field. But more importantly, with the use of some of this other tech, like the forms and whatnot, what that's done, so we can actually go in and based on the information these guys are feeding us, we can look at production for each day, right? We have the ability, we're capturing pictures. We can verify site conditions. You have that a lot in dirt. I just final graded that road, right? And then another group of people who shall remain nameless show up and destroy the road, right? So we can field verify a lot of the steps and the completion of work.
And there's real documentation there, yeah.
Exactly. And it's, a lot of people are aware in our industry, you've got to be good at capturing and saving all this data. So it's all getting sent out automatically. So I got a field guy out there and he or she is filling out forms that shoots out behind the scenes immediate. We're getting those reports. We're getting whether it's a PDF, a Word, Excel doc, the data can come in a variety of ways. And then we're taking that information in the office and we put it in the right bucket, right? So we've automated as much as we can. And then my staff, if we're on the, working with our estimator PMs and the accounting group, we can analyze that daily, hourly, a weekly, depending on what kind of staffing you have internally. And the cool thing about it is it's all going in massive databases that are cloud-based, right? So you can use some really cool reporting tools to pull the data out. But more importantly, you can automate those reports. So, for example, the field folks that are running equipment would fill out like a walk-around, right, or a pre-test for the equipment. And then that data's coming in. It immediately goes into an automatic reporting system that shoots out a report however often you want to do it. And it goes to all the supervisors and the maintenance staff and says, hey, here's the list of stuff that needs taken care of. And so imagine in the old days, people were texting and calling the maintenance department, right? And they can't keep track of it. And they're writing things on a whiteboard and it's a big mess. And so we've streamlined that process and then this data that's coming in. So we can essentially take everything from payroll data, worksheet, job costing. That's a really big deal, right? We're talking all of that in the field. And then we assemble that. And then we took internally and came up with a system where we take all the timesheet data and we have a little bit of knowledge in the office to transfer it over to our job costing and payroll system. So every week we just literally, it's 5 minutes and the data goes to our system. So that alone was saving us 2 days a week of somebody's time. So it's substantial. And what kind of infrastructure do you have to have? Well, you've got to have people that are vested in it, right? So maybe it's somebody in accounting or maybe you get somebody, it doesn't matter, coordinator, front office person, estimator, somebody that cares.
Right.
And then you start to figure out, where do we need help? What's our biggest, pain point? And then if you can find the right technology vendor, start simple, because implementing those forms and whatnot was not an expensive proposition. It really wasn't. I mean, we were able to go live fairly quickly.
So that does make me wonder, are you guys using a custom software solution, or is this kind of an out-of-the-box package that you're able to kind of customize as you go?
So it's an out-of-the-box that we customize as we go. I don't know if can I say the name, or does it, I don't know.
I think so. I don't think we should have any issues with that.
Okay. So we use a product from a company called Assigner. And Assigner was started by some dirt guys, actually, in Australia many, many years ago, over 10 years ago. They brought their system to the U.S. They have their headquarters now here in Denver. And then we got wind of what they were doing probably 2-3 years ago, took a look at it. And because the problem was, we could never find one system that gave us like 98% of what we wanted, right? We go over here and, that's a cool timesheet app, right? But it didn't talk to anything else. And then over here, hey, we could get some forms, but they're flat forms, right? So you get a PDF with a form. What are you going to do with it, right? You printing it or saving it. So those were great tools, but this one gave you the ability to take virtually anything, scheduling, data from the field, payroll data, whatever, and you can customize it and then have the ability to decide, what do we need out of it? So it's truly capturing the data. We like that it was cloud-based. Everyone has access from their phone or a tablet.
Cell phones or tablets.
Yeah, and so it gave us a easy way that we could customize, and they helped, right, initially. And then you as the customer decide, well, how fancy do I want to get? So there are some customers that are pretty low level, and then some that go, hey, we love this thing. Let's go figure out the 10 other things we can do. So it's scalable, I guess, would be the.
Yeah, very interesting. So kind of transitioning slowly to the field, from a maintenance standpoint, I know you guys have mentioned that this has helped you on the maintenance side. What specifically, from a decision standpoint, has this software and metric tracking allowed you to do?
You want to take a stab
Yeah,
at that,
I'll take
Danny?
a stab at this one.
Yeah.
So in the field, when we do our equipment checklist, we can mention anything on that machine that's wrong with pictures. So my guys will look at the machine and say, hey, this thing needs tires. We'll put it on our form, and that automatically goes to the mechanics. So the mechanics can look at those pictures, look at the previous data from those machines, and make decisions on whether that thing needs to be repaired now or if it's later on down the list. I think it helps both the mechanics and the field communicate more efficiently in understanding that, some repairs may not be quite as important as other repairs. Obviously, a machine's not running, that's going to take priority over one that just needs new tires because they're falling.
Right. And then on the back side, so on the accounting, right, the money side of it, right, we're seeing the same data, Ryan. So so we have a custom report that comes out. And so then we're looking ahead, and we know, it's hard to budget for maintenance, right? Because anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anything does happen. And, you're trying to stay within certain parameters. So on major repairs and whatnot, because we're getting the data, it's immediate. And so then we're talking from the office side, maybe to the gentleman that's running the maintenance department, right? And we're saying, hey, we just blew a turbo. What are we talking here, right? So our staff has been educated enough to understand some of these things are really important.
Right.
And so instead of taking 2 weeks for everybody to figure this out, and then they come to accounting and they go, oh my God, we need a turbo. Now we've got better oversight and faster communication. So we're kind of looking at ahead. There's certain things we have to do, right? The big thing is getting those preventative maintenance services done. That's how your fleet goes downhill,
Yep.
right, Danny? Nobody's paying attention to that. You're going to have massive problems, right? Well, I think that it's a combination of things. You've got the field and the mechanics trying to stay on top of it and prioritize and get the key is get the equipment productive. Then you've got the maintenance people, the bean counters over here, and we're going, hold on, wait a minute. So it's always a moving target. But I think the information's key because then we're all on the same page as much as we can be.
So my final question for you guys, and this is kind of both a question and kind of using, you guys are very inspirational. You guys are not a mega large company. I mean, you're not tiny, but at the same time, you're not one of these just enormous companies. From a cost effective standpoint, like this is, the knee jerk from everyone in the industry is, oh my gosh, drones and GPS and everything like that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. But clearly this is working for you guys and it's been a net positive experience. Could you we don't need to get into your actual numbers, but this is doable for mid-sized companies, correct?
It really is, Brian. So we run at any given time these days. I mean, COVID, even though we were all essential, did have an impact on some of the business and we work. Now, and we've had periods of time, we've been in business 16 years. We've had periods where we expanded because there was an opportunity, especially out of town, right, outside our home state. And we've been running, my God, probably double the size we are now. Probably don't want to do that again. We all lived through that fun time. I think as owners, both my son and I have learned to figure out, along with people like Danny, what's our sweet spot, right? So right now, we run on average here in Colorado about 8 crews. And those crews can be, about 4, 5, 6 people. And we do expand, right? So that we get a backlog going. We'll pick up here and there. But most of our field employees, especially those that are in senior positions, and then many of the senior lead guys have been here almost since the beginning. So the good news is building that environment where people want to stick around. That's really key to everything we do. But 8 crews, some of our competitors are running 50 crews. It is scalable. And that's why I mentioned that you can start small. I mean, we spent over the last probably 12 years that we've been using the GPS, ultimately drones, all of that. Sure, we've spent, my God, just on some of the machine technology, over $1 million. But take that out over 12 years. So you've got to start to budget for that. I think that's really important because the return on investment, you can actually measure that. I mean, if we're getting things done, I'll just use a number, twice as fast, right? To move dirt on a site,
with
over one less employee. I mean, you can start applying matrix pretty quickly. And I also think that in this day and age, with some of the operators that are out there, if we're giving them more tools, maybe they aren't the 10-year dozer hand, right? Maybe they've only got a couple years under their belt, Danny. And don't you think that in the machine control situation, doesn't that help?
It makes everybody more efficient.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a big deal. And so I think you have to first identify what area do you want to start with. And then you go, okay, I mean, you can buy a drone these days for a few $100, right? The really good ones, we run a big orange one. It's bright orange. It's called a Wingdra. I think all inclusive, this is software training. The drone itself was $50,000.
My initial knee jerk is, but at the same time, if you think about what you were going to pay in either survey costs or for someone to spend 2 days driving around a site, the fact that you can go back out there at any given day and within 45 minutes to an hour, get all of your takeoffs and figure out how much dirt's remaining to be moved. $50,000 is not that bad.
When you really look ahead and think about it, it's really, really true. And, the other key are the people. So it's not just the money, right? You've got to identify who are going to be your leaders, who are your cheerleaders for this, and then get them trained. I see so many people that go, well, that didn't go so well, right? Or we gave it up. I've seen that happen, right, Danny? Where they just throw up their hands and go, this isn't working, we're not going to do this. Usually it comes down to training and support, and you've got to get people to buy in and identify these people and give them an opportunity, but support them and don't try to bite off more than you can chew. And maybe you don't do this with the whole fleet. Maybe you take certain machines, like if you're laying, you can do this for utility contractors as well. So if, you're laying pipe, you're probably going to start with your excavators, right? Pick a couple, prove them all. I always tell people that. You don't have to go all in. Do what we did. We just kept adding. This worked really well. Let's
just bite-sized chunks. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
On utilities, if you're using GPS for utilities, now you're talking about saving on squeegee or pipe bedding as well, because that machine is going to what you tell it to dig to.
Right. There's no guessing. So it's way better. And it's safer because, if you're trying to check grade in a trench, Danny. Yeah, we've been there. You've got way more accuracy and you've got immediate control over what's going on.
This is a conversation that we could easily chew through an hour and a half worth of time. So I hate to cut it off, but I do want to thank both of you for your time, because this is, as we talked about in the pre-interview, technology is just one of those aspects I really get excited about because of the impact it's having on the industry. And to have a company like you guys that really gets it, and you're looking at the long-term impact of whatever the investment is, as opposed to just the upfront sticker shock. That's so awesome to hear. So again, thank you guys both for your time. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, thank you again to Terri and Danny for coming on the show. As you can see, it does not take a ridiculously large company to be able to benefit from technology. It's not going to completely bury your business if you do start to invest in this stuff. Over time, it will actually make you more efficient, more productive. It will increase your margins because of all of the savings you're getting on time and material loss. So thank you again to Terri and Danny. Really appreciate it. As always, I hope this has been helpful, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode of The Dirt.